Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Jessica, before the break, took you on a trip back into the pandemic, and I would like to take you back to the times when social media did not exist, and then to the times when they started appearing. 2004, this very nice service, Facebook, showed up. Thanks to that, we were able to contact our friends. We knew what they were doing. A year later, another cool service showed up, and that was YouTube. Thanks to that, we could share amateur films. 2010, Instagram, and the option to share your photos. And I believe that many of us, maybe not necessarily those present here, but many adults, many parents still think about social media, about cool platforms, cool services where you can spend some time, spend your leisure time, and get your entertainment. However, these days, social media are very complex services that have algorithms. They are supported by algorithms, different constructs, and also artificial intelligence. This is about monetizing the activity of the users of the social media, including youth and adolescents. 2017, TikTok, that's in the meantime. And TikTok amplified this technology and how to get users interested in their content. The construct of films on TikTok make it very hard to stop watching them, so it's even more difficult for children and adolescents. So these days, we face the phenomena, and this is a good moment for me to change the slides. So we are at the point when we have to acknowledge and we need to see that social media pose a threat to children and adolescents. So also touching upon Jessica's presentation, I would like to also share our perspective. I'm really happy that during this conference we can look at those issues from different angles. In our foundation, Empowering Children Foundation, we deal with children that come across different situations on social media. And Jessica mentioned some of them. So, in some studies, we have got that it's obvious that social media have an impact on mental health. Other studies don't show that there is such an impact. So, first of all, in the whole situation, we have to see the young people. We have to see the reality. And when it comes to the social media, even if you can have a very positive use, then regarding social media, the kids also become victim. They fall victim to different situations. And as adults, as parents, we have to safeguard our kids. So it really is the case that we have to look for solutions. There isn't just one solution. So this is about the education of young people, of children, is very important. So we'll have to admit that for a long time in our foundations, we would take the well-being of our children very seriously, but also we wanted to make sure that they also have access to new technologies. And we can see that education about cybersecurity is not widespread. There is an issue about introducing cyber security in schools and how to use the internet. So we can see what is happening with the health education. Practically no one signed up for it. So we hope that through schools we can come with the information to the kids, but there are also very few parents who come to meetings or training sessions and information meetings at school, and we all know it. So we have to still look for solutions how to bring that education into schools and do it effectively. However, the mechanisms and the algorithms are set in such a way that the children cannot defend themselves against it. So there were some examples that we have already heard that, well, we can't manage those social media by ourselves. We can't stop scrolling. So we would say that we can teach them how to stop scrolling, but that is a developmental thing. Really, this is about, addicting people to social media. So even for adults, it is possible, and the children's brains have not been fully developed yet. Our kids don't have the competences and the options to defend themselves. So this critical approach or uncritical approach to regulation is something that we have to see, and this approach needs to be critical. So the situation at the moment is that this environment becomes safe for children and youth. When this environment becomes safe, we'll be able to say that further regulation is not necessary. So sometimes the regulations come too late, but we cannot allow ourselves to leave those children in this harm environment. So there have been studies showing that when it comes to the internet, a lot of kids under that regulated age of 13, they use the internet. There was a methodology, and there was a group of children that was under 13. It was a relatively small group, but we monitored the activity. So for the kids between 7 and 9 years of age, so grades 1, 2, and 3, so, but that was a small group. So we asked kids from over 1,000 classes, so that's about 3,000 kids. And so the good intentions of the big tech were actually undermined. So when we asked TikTok about how many children under the age of 13 uses their services, they say, we don't know. And they just boast about how many profiles of such people they manage to block, to remove. However, I have my doubts, and we all know in this hall that if we want to solve an issue, realistically, we first of all have to have it diagnosed. We have more and more studies, and I'm happy that there is an increased number of studies showing up. But it's also important for service providers. So 66% of children between 7 and 9 years of age have their own smartphone, not just a mobile phone, but a smartphone, very often with internet access. And very often this access is unlimited. And what is even more important is 50% of children between 7 and 9 years of age use social media. So if we wanted to let go of control and to really strengthen education, that means that 50% of kids between 7 and 9 years who are prone to different cyber threats. So you know the situation, but I would try to show it in such a way that we can make this knowledge more orderly. So we also looked about YouTube, and we asked about not YouTube Kids, but YouTube, where they have a lot of functionalities that are common and in line with other social media. So we can see that the scale of this problem, of this issue, increases. What is a great value in those studies is the fact that we could ask the kids, of course, declaratively, about their experience about social media and communicators. And as you can see, 23%, and that's an important piece of information that the kids don't just look at the content, but they also publish content. And here we can see that the kids use communicators and social media despite age limits, and they have practically the same functionalities, yes, as social media. When you have WhatsApp, then yes, that's communication. But when it comes to groups, you have got materials, you have got links to other sites as well. So there is a similar level of threat. And now also something important. Has something disturbing happened to you? Something you didn't like on the social media or communicators? So when we did that research during online lessons, we could really explain what we are asking for. It is so there isn't the risk that the kids misunderstood the language. So as you can see, half of the kids in early education use social media. And you can also see that 62% of them say that something disturbing happened to them, yes? And also over 50% when it comes to communicators. So these are the issues. This is the problem that we are facing. It's not just teenagers, it's also about small children. For a few years in our foundations, we have been running the program regarding screen rules at home. This is how we have been also showing how to use internet at home. So we have been talking about how to adjust the rules also when it comes to social media and the challenges that we are facing. And this is why we have this recommendation. One of those 10 rules regarding social media, and that means social media from the 15 years of age, so from the age of 15. So we have heard a critical approach toward it, but we also heard that more and more countries are becoming interested in this. Such regulations are appearing, and through this recommendation, we really support what is happening, once again emphasizing that this potential, the scale of threat is substantial, and just by education itself, we are no longer able to protect our children. So these are recommendations for the parents, but this is also a legal change as well, the direction that we recommend. In order to strengthen that, we are running a campaign that we have called 15 plus reasons. 15 plus reasons to safeguard children against social media. Why have we decided to have this campaign? And that is to communicate with the parents, to cooperate with the parents. So even if we do not manage to reach that goal 15 years, we will be able to show what those threats are about. Okay, I have got 15 reasons and just 11 minutes, so I will have to partially scroll through that, but this is what more presentation is all about. I could also speak twice as fast as the kids do, but I will spare you that.
The first reason is sexual abuse. We've been talking about it. We never know who is on the other side. This campaign was already there 20 years ago, but the social media have intensified this problem. There are tools in the hands of pedophiles, in sexual abusers by encouraging children to meet offline for sexual reasons, obtaining pornographic materials, engaging in conversations on on sex, and promoting pornographic materials. This is a phenomenon that occurs on a large scale, on a huge scale. This scale, as for materials from children goes, is growing increasingly. Studies show 23 million of such materials in 2023, and the scale from 2020 to 2023, within 3 years, there was a great increase by 90% of such materials, which is especially worrying in the context, especially of the youngest children. In the case of such children, there's an increase of 300% in materials generated by and registered by children at the age from 7 to 10 as a result of being manipulated on the internet. But also, here we're talking about seduction of teenagers. Hence, this 15+ rule seems justified, as the children, girls at the age of within 13 years old are the mostly targeted. Cyber violence, media, social media, they have their specificity. The majority of situations where children are harmed online is done within the social media and communicators, and perhaps it is even more shown by studies, by offline violence can online violence can have very tragic consequences and is present on a very large scale. Pornography, it may seem, and it often we talk about the social media, that pornography is not there. We are talking about a high percentage of young people using or having access to pornography, but we mainly talk about it in the context of the most popular pornographic services, which is quite mistaken. Some social media like Reddit or X, Twitter, they provide pornographic materials. They are available from the age of 13 years, and despite the mechanisms, especially in the context of lack of age verification, children do encounter pornographic materials. And social media also promote pornographic materials through links. Influencers, both female and male, pronouns materials in OnlyFans, under OnlyFans service. So the research shows that among children and teenagers who have access to pornography, 60% got there through social media. It doesn't mean that the social media, that they saw it on social media, but through links. They encountered such content, not to mention the studies showing that 7 to 10% have contact with pornography, such services as TikTok, Instagram. The mechanisms that catch such content aren't perfect, and before such a certain material is withdrawn, it can really reach quite vast audience. Violence, brutal scenes of violence, murders, executions, scenes from movies that are brutal. This is something that is a content at social media. Children encounter such content on TikTok. They like such content according to algorithms. Two such examples from recent time: murder at the University of Warsaw, Charlie Kirk's murder. These were events, medial events, and these scenes, the brutal scenes, were immediately present on social media. And I don't know the studies, but I conducted my own study by asking my children of my friends, children during classes that I ran. All of them said that they saw these materials with no censorship. Some said that, okay, there were some warnings, but still we got to watch them. So in this way, through the social media, violence reaches children, and this is practically beyond control. Hate and radicalization. Once again, hate is a material that is common online in the form of videos, photographs. It polarizes, so it clicks well. It stops us for a longer period of time. And again, algorithms like such content. We're also talking about this rabbit hole phenomenon that from some point we go towards more violent, more brutal materials, more radical materials, and we reach the group that share our radical attitudes. Perhaps if you saw adolescence show series, this process is depicted very well there. I recommend you to watch it. Harmful patterns, it was mentioned a moment ago. Let me just mention that besides beauty-related trends, we need to remember that social media for young people are a large pattern. What they see there is a reference point. They see something that is not true. They see very homogeneous materials. They see the lives of people who, in situations that are not true, that have been directed, but this they treat it as a reference point, and on top of that, there is a mechanism of comparing ourselves to others, and the child starts to think, okay, I can't afford this kind of shoes. My parents aren't always smiling like their parents, and these risky behaviors can be followed. This can be followed by risky behaviors. There's a study showing that 6 to 12% of young people take up the most risky challenges that we heard of, and risky behaviors are also behaviors that are inscribed in the mechanics of the social media. We want to make our presence there. We want to be more popular. Popularity is not harmful. Money as well is not harmful, but added to other trends, it adds up to something bad. I'm not going to talk about pressure of appearance because we talked about it. Addiction, a very big problem. To what Jessica said, let me just repeat. Children, but also young people, aren't able to defend themselves from algorithms that are addictive, and irrespective of whether this is clinically justified or not. When we say problematic internet use instead of addiction, this is a problem that touches both children, teenagers, and also studies. Nastolatki 3.0 show that this problem is really prominent, and the percentage of children showing very high addiction level, it's around 8%. There are a number of studies that show this trend. It's enough to say 260 videos or scroll to create pressure for using social media. This is the construct of the algorithm. This is a mechanism behind it, the reward mechanism. Sleep disorders, the problems with concentration. Sorry, you're taking photos, so maybe I'll stop for a moment. Sleep disorders, perhaps two things about it. Many studies show correlation between using social media and sleep disorder. The sleep quality is worse using the internet in general, but especially social media, because it's one of the most popular forms of using the internet, and the need to be up to date, to follow events. This causes that we reach for the smartphone before we go to bed, right after we wake up, and 8 to 10 young people need 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and I think only 20% of people meet these standards. Usually it's around 7 hours and 20 minutes. But there's quite a significant group of people who have the sleep disorders due to social media use. So of course there are problems with concentration. So from the alert, the message the child receives from social media, the child needs about 7 minutes to return to the state of attention. Studies show how social media influence results on tests that require greater concentration. Another reason, social isolation. So on the one hand, it's social media as it by name, but on the other hand, these are in fact anti-social media. It's hard to generalize, and of course, we have to remember, especially in the case of adults, but also young people, that there are people who can really take benefits from that, and it can have socially good effects. But to many, the large groups of friends, that they are lonely. Depression and anxiety. We talk about controversies and in which way this goes, whether intense use of social media causes depressions or the social media are an answer to depression. There are many such phenomena. So social comparison, behaviors connected with appearance, not to mention cyber violence, or especially talking about cyber violence. All of this has an effect on on the mental health of children. FOMO, the need to be constantly up to date, something that the suppliers of such services based on. These are phenomena that generated, programmed to make people use social media as long as possible. Children, young people, for them it's very difficult to protect themselves from it. Health problems, smartphone neck, problems with sleep, all of these phenomena that we hear about connected with the internet. My time is up, but what I wanted to say at the end is that, or to repeat what I said, that we see a huge need for complex campaigns, education on various levels, but we also see the need to regulate access to social media. This is definitely very difficult. When we were wondering half a year ago, 15 years, how to do it. What about the children that are already using social media and are 13 years old? How to convince a teenager to leave the social media in general? We need solutions here, but we have to think on long-term solutions. If we introduce such standards in the child who's now 12 and doesn't get the social media at the age of 13, maybe for this child's good, maybe it will work for the child's benefit. It's not an easy task, it's a huge challenge, but thinking about what the social media world looks like today, and aiming at protecting our children from being harmed and ensuring a happy childhood for them. So with all this in mind, I'm convinced that the change, this direction of change is needed and possible. Thank you very much.